What is up, guys? It's been a while, and did a Utah trip, tuned a couple cars up there, diagnosed a few more, and you might hear some of that from the owners. Some of them are very well known in their given industry, in the automotive sector. Um, it seemed like that was a very confusing post. I made it to the RX-7 page, and somehow me congratulating a shop finally getting 200 horsepower past their maximum was seen as me being arrogant. The tune wasn't even optimized for one of the cars. We had to stop it very early. So, anyways, today's video, I would like to talk about heat exchanger sizing, and it all falls into place with me going to a high elevation, um, turbo sizing, fuel sizing, everything rolls in the same packaging. So I've got a pretty decent rule of thumb for rotary as far as whatever air mass you think you can go with. I keep jiggling the camera, I'm sorry guys. Whatever air mass you think you should go with for a horsepower goal, um, you're going to want to have a factor multiplier for that. Now, fuel systems, we have half the injection time, and we also have to run a sizable, we'll just say a richer air to fuel ratio. So, on a fuel system, the ratio is going to be different than on the air. The airflow of the rotary engine itself, we're going to be somewhere around 74, 76%. Where if a intercooler, let's say you're trying to size your heat exchanger for your intercooler, also known as a charge air cooler, if it's rated for 1,000 horsepower of air, on a rotary, realistically it's rated for about 740 horsepower. That's just going to be rule of thumb. And things you need to consider are how long is that rated for that power level, because there are very much a fake, shitty intercooler company. They're out there and they suck. Mishimoto is one of the worst. If I see Mishimoto on your car, I'm probably gonna be like, please change that piece of shit. Even Renee of CX Racing, those are better cores than Mishimoto. Something to think about. So, I think that when it comes to sizing heat exchangers, you want to do it based on your application. So if you've got a drag race car, you're running the car for a couple minutes, right? Your timeline for running is very minimal, so you can have a lot of power. The heat soak that's going to go across, because it is a heat sink. That's exactly the point of it. It's a bar of aluminum and plate. That's what they call it, bar and plate, that you're pumping heat from the turbo into. And what's going to end up happening is, as air flows through that, you're accumulating the heat into a heat sink, and then on the way out it's cooled off because now you've got something to retain the heat off the turbocharger, and the airflow going through it is helping your charge air drop in temperature. By being too restrictive, you'll have a thing where you're losing boost pressure. But to be more specific, we want to focus on the application first for what you're using the vehicle for. If you were doing time attack, you're out there for 3 laps total. If you're doing drag racing, you're out there for 2-3 minutes total. So these can get away with smaller charge air coolers than something like, let's say you've got a high performance driving event vehicle. So you're out there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. wide open throttle, you're doing essentially, let's say, 8 to 10 tenths on a racetrack. That's something that I would double the size of your horsepower for your intercooler. So if you go to buy an intercooler and you say, I want to go to track days, I want to do this track, this track, this track, whatever inherent lag that you might get from a larger intercooler is going to be quickly made up with on the efficiency of the charge air temperature, as well as the fact that your safety or your margin of safety is growing when the charge air is colder. So really cool, kind of very simple experiment. For anyone who runs water meth, the reason why that works is because the air temperature is maintaining or dropping when it's properly set up. And by doing so, the protection of safety, or the octane rating of your fuel, is more effective. Anything that air temp goes up, I don't care if you're running methanol and you think that's the way to go, that's the most retarded cop-out choice of all. Air temp is a huge factor. So if you can get away with keeping something close to ambient temperature or below it, like if you had water meth injection, your octane rating or effective octane goes up. You're also getting better air density because as air gets colder, it gets more dense. So you're making more power per combustion event. So on a track day car, you're going to want to have an intercooler that's properly sized, I would say twice as big as your horsepower rating. So as an example, let's say you have an E85 car, you want to make 600 horsepower. You're going to be running 27 pounds of boost to do that. That car would be wanting an intercooler that is not 950 horsepower sized, but almost 1800, 2000 horsepower sized for rotary for track duty. So my personal size for my car is I have, I believe it's a 26 by 13 by 4.5 that is rated for like 2000 horsepower, and that's air to air. It's from Bell Intercooler. It has very, very low pressure drop for how efficient it is. So if you look at the turbulators and how they're controlling the airflow through the intercooler, they're designed to directionally control the air, slow it down, but not decrease boost. It's a very interesting calculation of, do you want to stop the air entirely and therefore it's going to soak into the metal as best as it can, and then you have a higher boost pressure loss, so lower boost? Or do you want it to be free flowing, boost pressure doesn't lose at all, but then the hot air doesn't transfer through the intercooler? That's basically how these all work. And that's for any fluid. Okay, so this applies to engine oil, applies to fuel, applies to whatever else you have coolers on. So I always have a size ratio for what I'm trying to do, regardless of, if someone thinks that they can get away with smaller intercoolers, high boost, all this stuff on a street application, which is high heat soak, track application, stuff like that, they're fooling themselves. I've seen it. I've laughed at it. I've laughed at the data that they've acquired from it, and I think it's fucking stupid. So for those people to misinform others on this very simple subject, it's just a very disappointing thing to see. So I hope that helps. I'm going to try to keep this to 10 minutes. Yeah, heat exchanger stuff. If you guys need specifics on your setup, damn, this screen just went out in time. If you need specifics on your setup, let me know, and we'll go through and figure out what racetrack you're at, what kind of fuel you have access to, your engine bay sizing, because some of you don't have engine bay room. We have some really cool custom cars coming through, and a lot of those will be requiring certain things. So get you guys sized up accordingly. It's very much like tailoring a suit, so you want to take the time, make it look professional, pop those tags, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So cheers, y'all. Figured to make one real quick before the night's over. See you later.